nice to meet you. I'm Ariana.
Hi, Ariana. I'm Sophie. So wonderful to meet you.
Awesome. Susie Searches. It was originally a short film. Was it always the plan to make it a feature-length film?
Yes. In this case, we actually went out with a proof of concept short and the feature screenplay at the same time. That was sort of a way to sort of show what I could do as a director, but really to show that I understood the very unique tone of the film. The film is sort of a towing the line between a satire and or satirical a satire and a comedy or a darkly comedic thriller, and you're sort of always sort of vacillating between dark comedy and thriller at every sort of turn. And I felt like when we were going out to producers and financiers, they would always sort of question whether I understood that tone, and this was a way to sort of limit that question or limit the nose as much as possible.
Yes. So you played Susie in the short film. Why did you decide to not play Susie again, or was that kind of always the plan that someone else would play Susie?
Great question. So I started as an actress, and I starred in the short. And as with most shorts, you're sort of beg, borrowing, and stealing. As a director, I was also doing crafty and catering, and the pickups and the drop-offs, and I was doing props, I was doing costumes, and after that experience, I was like, I cannot direct and act at the same time. And I couldn't give up. Directing is more than anything. I realized, I've never felt more sort of in my element as a director. And as an actor, I was like, I think I can get someone better, honestly. Um, and Kiersey, I've been a fan of Kiersey's for I don't even know how long. And, I felt like she had all of the ingredients. She had, mostly this incredibly, um, empathetic, compassionate. I find myself whenever I watch her, I like watching her on screen. And she's an incredible emotional dexterity that I felt was right for Susie. She had all the ingredients for like what I wanted to see in this character, and she sort of took what I wanted and she elevated it to a whole nother level. um, so I feel really lucky, but yeah, i I realized after the short, I was like, I'm meant to be a director. I can find a better actress.
Well, you have an amazing cast overall. Like, how did that come together? Because it is an indie film, but there's so many A-listers. How did that kind of come together? Was it a lot of people you know? Did they just find the script and then find you? How did that come about?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think it was a mix of it was a mix of a couple things. One, I started as an actor, so I know a lot of actors.
Mhm.
Um, and that was sort of uh a bunch of the smaller roles. I've Those are actors that I've known for a long time, and those were and then and then the other, the sort of the bigger, like Jim Gaffigan and Ken, they responded to this script. And that's due to, Will Frank, my who is my sort of creative collaborator, and he wrote the script. That's all his. I attribute the, incredible script that he wrote to their wanting to do it. But yeah, we got very lucky. I think also my incredible casting director, Meredith Tucker, was a huge part in getting these incredible actors. For anyone who doesn't know Meredith, she cast White Lotus, but she also cast Eighth Grade. She's an incredible, she's got such, she is like, God, she's Meredith. I can't say enough wonderful things about Meredith Tucker, and love the script, understood the tone, um, when we were very much in sync in terms of like the type of not the type, but the actors that we wanted to go out to. And I feel so fortunate. We sent the script to them, or we sent the script to their agents, and they read it, and we either met then we usually met and then they said yes. But yeah, it was very lucky, I felt sort of to get this kind of cast for your first feature is unexpected and so exciting. And I've been such a fan. Like I was such a fan of Rachel coming out of Shiva Baby, and I didn't know if we'd be able to get her for Jillian. And it was actually a really funny story. We were zooming, and I guess I was told that she was in LA, and maybe she was told that I was in LA, but I was like, "Where are you?" She was like, "Oh, I'm in New York," and I was like, "I'm in New York. Where are like what part of New York?" And it turned out she was like 10 blocks away. So we ended up like canceling the Zoom, and we met at a coffee shop like halfway. I met her like 20 minutes later, and we had like a 3 hour coffee, and it was the best. I was like, why do Zooms when we can meet in person? And yeah, I was so lucky. I was so lucky with this cast. I loved every, from Isaac, who played Ray, to Rachel, I mentioned, who played Jillian, to Jim, who played Sheriff Loggins, Ken, who played I love these actors so much. They're such great actors, but incredible collaborators. Dolly Wells, who played Professor Gallagher, Alex Moffat, yeah, you name it. I could go on and on about how lucky I was with these. But I mention Alex Wolff. Oh my gosh, Alex Wolff is, I mean, Alex was actually oddly enough, my partner is his trainer, and which is a weird story, but my partner is a trainer, and he was talking to Alex, and he was talking about Susie, and he sent Alex the script, and Alex was like, "I love this. I want to do this." And I know that sounds so crazy, but that is the truth. That's sort of the wildest. Alex, and actually Ryan, my partner, also is best friends with David Walton, who played the Deputy Graham, who is also, I think, such an amazing, what a performance. But yeah, so I got those two from but I've been also good friends with David for a long time too. So when we were writing Susie, or conceiving of the script, I always had David in mind to play the sheriff, Deputy Graham, and I'm very lucky that he said yes.
That's amazing. I feel like a lot of times in movies when there's a nerdy girl, when she becomes popular, she has like this huge glamorous makeover. And Susie doesn't at all. She's very much stuck in like her Nancy Drew's 70s era. And then she puts on like lip balm and everyone's like, oh my gosh. Um, why did you kind of avoid that trope of not having this big makeover moment when she gains her popularity?
I love that question. That's such a good question. And I agree with you. I also like that would be the obvious choice, where she would just be like, glammed up. But for me, Susie is really comfortable with who she is, even though she is sort of wears these sort of her mom's hand-me-downs, and she has a mouthful of colored braces. She's never like she's very comfortable with like with her, with her look. She's not necessarily trying to fit in, and that's she's really sort of very comfortable in her own skin, very proud of who she is. And, I think that I wanted to show someone who is the opposite of that. This, like you're the sort of obvious sort of choice would be she gets sort of some success, and then she starts wearing like sort of body conscious outfits, or she starts, doing her hair in a different way. And I didn't think that was, that wasn't true to who she was. She's someone who sort of marches to the beat of her own drum, and she's very proud of that, and she's a true original. And like, yeah, she's like wearing like she puts on lip balm and she's like, here I am. But like, but I love that about her. You know, she's not anyone else other than herself. And you know, even when she gets successful, or she's still exactly who she is.
Yes. Another thing about your directing, and I'm sure it was intentional, but there's so many twists in the scripts that at some point I'm like, oh, she's obviously dreaming, like this isn't happening. And then, like, no, this is happening. How did you kind of borderline that surrealism where you're very much questioning the narrative?
That's also a great question. So I think what's was very important for me, especially when you're working in such a sort of an elevated world or heightened world, is to establish tone really early on with your, and like make sure that everyone, all of your collaborators, whether it be your producers, your cast or crew, to make sure that everyone understands your vision. I think when, you know, when the difference between like a good film and an excellent film is, it comes down to like, are we all making the same movie, and we all understand this, the tone of this film, and that comes into sort of communication. um so um I storyboarded the entire film, so like, you know, every way that you can sort of elucidate or like help communicate better, I will, you know, I did. So not only did I storyboard the film, but I did like a Spotify playlist. I think music is a really good way to sort of establish tone. Believe it or not, on that initial Spotify playlist that I sent to everyone on the crew, and you know, all of our cast, um, every we were able to actually get every song that is in the movie was initially, minus I think one or two, was on that initial Spotify playlist. Uh,
Oh.
so like that, and like was a really weird playlist, but it was a way of establishing tone really well. But I had a Dropbox of, you know, every like a color palette, and you know, uh location, and you know, lighting, and um texture, and you name it, cost, like you name it, that sort of, I made folders for every sort of creative aspect of the film very early on, so that and that I sent to everyone, so that uh people especially in this medium are visual learners, and I think it's a way to sort of make people understand or communicate your vision better. And you know, especially in a world like this, you know, for in my sort of in my storyboards, I would also do a lot of camera movement stuff. So I would sort of, this is getting into the weeds, but there was like a really interesting sort of camera movement that I loved from another movie. I would film it on my cell phone, and I would attach it to the sort of the Google Doc storyboard that I made, so that people could understand you know, a camera movement. For example, you know, when Susie sort of pushes off from, when she sort of discovers Jesse, and I had that sort of interesting camera movement where she sort of pushes off from her desk and the camera sort of whirls around her. I knew that I wanted that sort of that movement, and so early on I sort of was able to communicate with my key grip and show him this movement, and you know, in my boards, in this sort of uh video that I took. And I was like, how could we do this? And he was like, oh well, I can rig the camera to the desk chair. And I was like, well, can we do this? And he's like, now we can, because I know what you want. And so that was sort of a way to allow, you know, to communicate, um all of that sort of nitty gritty, you know, different types of language that will allow you to communicate with your department heads. You know, any way that you're allowed to, you know, that will help elucidate your vision, the better. But yes, that heightened, all of that, those moments, that those heightened, um you know, elevated moments, those were all planned for.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad I received the movie in the way that you were trying to deliver it, because I was like, oh, what's going on? It was so great. I'm so excited to talk to you about your future projects that I know are just about to come knocking on your door, and even write yourself. And thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled that you love the movie, and it was a joy chatting with you.
Oh, thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Take